First of all, thank you for the medal. No other group, not even my own Americans, have given me this type of medal of recognition that I served in the Vietnam War. So it's very important to me. But I'm going to invite somebody up here who had more time in combat than I did, my wife. Please come up here. She was born until she was 20-some years old, was in the Vietnam War as a civilian like many of your families did. Same thing. Now, is it okay if I kiss her?
No. Yes. We should do the wedding kiss. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay. Who was the master of ceremonies? What was his name? Captain. Yeah, him. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you very much. Now, he said, you must know who you are. We must know who we are. Well, I know who you are. I know who you are. In Vietnam War, 1967 and 68, the Tet, when the North Vietnamese came into South Vietnam and they were going to crush and they were going to become communists because they loved them so much and the Americans and everybody was so bad to them. Well, I have a plaque on the wall in my office at home that says, from the officers and men of Detachment B-56, 5th Special Forces Group, 1st Special Forces, Project Sigma. So we ran across border in Cambodia and Laos. Yep, there we were. Okay. This whole area here, we were looking for the North Vietnamese headquarters in Cambodia, but we weren't sure it was there. We looked in Laos also. So that is my experience, and with the mountain yards of Central Highlands. The Central Highlands right in here. The mountain yards are 8 mountain yard tribes, and we worked with them. I know them very well. So, my plaque says 14 July 67 to 13 July 68. That's when I was in the 5th Special Forces, working with. I know who you are, okay? I know who you are. But we got to get other people to know who you are. It's important for my heart, too, my soul. It's very important. They don't know who you are. And so we got to do something about that. As a Green Beret soldier, we were probably the finest light infantry in the world. Why were we so good? Because we had soldiers like you. You made us good. You were the good soldiers. We didn't have you, we wouldn't have been anything. We'd have been nothing. So I want you to know, I look at you, we're old. We're old. But we love each other. And pretty soon we're going to be in the ground. Who's going to remember us? Nobody. So I'm going to make all effort I can that Congress recognizes who we are. We are true veterans, all of us. I want to share with you a little story about the Ho Chi Minh Trail. You all know that. There, you can see it clearly. Okay. The Ho Chi Minh Trail. The people who ran the Ho Chi Minh Trail were people like you and I. But they were from the north. They weren't communists any more than we're communists, but they loved their country too. And they came running down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. They were skiing on bicycles, and you know, the big thing was we were trying to stop them. Well, the NBA, that was their supply line, and they could not. The North Vietnamese army could not use tanks. You know, the big tank, how do you say tank? Okay. They didn't have any tanks. We had them, but that was no big deal. They didn't have tanks because the supply line would not bring the ammo, the gasoline, the spare parts, all the things it needs to keep a tank moving. So they didn't have any tanks. They didn't have helicopters, they had nothing. But they had good infantry. There were no tanks in the Vietnam War. I call it the Second Indochina War. It's more than the Vietnam War. It's the Second Indochina War because that's where Cambodia, Laos, all of that came into play. So I call it the Second Indochina War. And they said there were no tanks until there were tanks. During the Tet Offensive of January 1968, 84,000 communist hardcore soldiers invaded into South Vietnam. They took over the capital. They tried to take over the capital. They struck every province in Vietnam and almost all the cities, the villages. Nearby, they initially started the war, the Tet Offensive I'm talking about. It's official, they started on 30 and 31 January. However, it started earlier. They started on 21 January with the Battle of Quay Son, which was down the road from Quay Son Village and Long Bay villages. Nearby in Laos, the 33rd Royal Laotian Elephant Battalion. Anybody? How do you say that? You know, the 33rd Royal Laotian Elephant Battalion. They were occupied the village of Ban Hue Sin. Anybody from Ban Hue Sin? Anybody know that? Okay, that was a little village. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was running here, and they dropped down in the village, resupply, and, you know, spend some time. And the 33rd Lao Elephant Battalion was stationed there to keep them out. United States Army Special Forces, South Vietnamese and Royal Lao soldiers were immediately involved in the war. And what the North Vietnamese did was they did siege war. It was like a python snake. They would circle and try to strangle and kill everything that they squeezed into. And that's where they tried to do that in the village of Ban Hue San. On 23 January, which is still a week before death, the 304th Glorious Division, heroes of the defeat of the French at Dien Bien Phu, smashed into the 33rd Royal Lao Battalion, defending the village. For 3 hours, 700 Laotians, 700 Laotians held the village. Then they heard the tanks. Then they heard the tanks. There were no tanks, but they heard them. And so, because that battalion was light infantry, very light infantry, and no guns or nothing to fight tanks, they headed to Long Bay, which was a special forces camp. They arrived at the camp on 24 January, still before death. The NBA had triggered it, they didn't realize. And they told the American camp commander, Captain Willoughby, Frank heard the tanks. Well, the Americans didn't believe it because there were supposed to be no tanks in Vietnam. But Captain Willoughby, because the way we're trained to listen, we're all part of the same fighting unit, he believed it. And so he reorganized the 700 in the village of Long Bay. And in 3 days, there were 2,000 Laotian family there. You went to war with your families. That's what people don't remember. Went to war with your family. So now there were 2,000 Laotians in Vietnam in Long Bay village. At 7:30, the NBA struck the village with their tanks. 5 Russian Soviet light tanks struck with the 24th NBA Infantry Regiment. It wasn't long, and the Special Forces camp were Lao, Vietnamese, American, Cambodians were in that camp. They were overrun. Eventually, Captain Willoughby pulled everyone that was still alive into 4 or 5 bunkers in the compound. At 2 o'clock in the morning, it was so bad, Captain Willoughby called down the road to the Marines for help. They said, "You get in trouble, we'll help you." Well, Marines were already in trouble. They couldn't help. So he asked for artillery. Put the artillery on the camp. That was the only way they could break the siege. About a third of a mile west, 3 Special Forces NCOs and about 100 Lao soldiers came across and mounted a counterattack. The North Vietnamese fought like hell. They weren't going to give up. But when the 100 and some Lao soldiers with the 3 Special Forces and non-commissioned officers, NCO sergeants, struck, they ran. they ran. At the end of the battle, the NBA admitted there were 90 killed. 220 of them were wounded, and they destroyed 7 tanks. 7 tanks. The Lao and Vietnamese had 309 killed, 64 wounded, and 122 taken prisoners. Special Forces had 24 people, 24 American Special Forces soldiers were in the camp. 7 were killed, 3 were captured, and 11 were wounded. Now, I bring this, you guys know this. If you didn't know specific, you know of it. But our fellow Americans don't know this. They need to know this. Otherwise, we cannot have enough strength politically to become what we want, veteran status. So, I'm going to make a real effort at trying to get out to the public who we are. Who we are. Tell people who you are. If they want to listen, tell them anyway. Tell them anyway. Most Americans believe that the Second Indochina War or the Vietnam War was an American war. No. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was fought by American weight, but it was not an American war. It was a war against communism that all of us fought together. And so as a Special Forces officer, I want to share with you. I'll probably die tomorrow. I don't know how much longer I got. But I got to tell you, as long as I'm alive, and as long as you'll have me as your leader, we will together work politically. It's a political thing. We got guys like Chris who helps us. But we need the big dogs. And you're right to have invited Congressman, what's his name again? Yeah. McCarthy. We need someone like that on our side. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for my wife's medallion. She's a warrior worse than I am. And I thank all of you. I know you're hungry. I'm going to shut up and thank you all very, very much.